Okay, you should now start to understand a little bit better what a storyboard is, or at least how to use it and what it will allow you to do, which is create the UI and even some navigation between different views inside of your application. So for this application, we're going to create a simple notification or an alert to the person who's using the application, and that user should be able to write their name so the notification is personalized, or the alert. So we're going to define a little bit better the UI. So you may have noticed that I have made larger this label, and I did it in the previous lecture, but right now I'm making it as large as it can until it hits kind of like a blue line in there, sorry, that allows me to know to make things just a little bit better aligned. So I know that this is all the way to the left and all the way to the right. So I can do something similar with the text field in here, drag it all the way to the left and making it big enough for it to fit all the way to the right. And for the button, I may do the same, although the difference may not be very noticeable since it doesn't have any border, but now the UI looks a little bit better. So now that I have that, before doing anything else, I'm going to run this one more time on the iPhone 6 simulator, and back on the simulator it should open a little bit and we should see the UI changes as the application is launching, and as you can see the changes have actually been made there. Okay, so now that we have that, we need to change something or some properties of the interface, of the elements on the interface. So we are going to go to the attributes inspector, and in here I am going to change the default color of the label to something else, and as you can see the changes are immediately applied. I can also change the font if I set the font to something custom, and I can change the font to a different kind of font, and in fact I can also make it bold or italic, and I can change its size. So for example, if I want it to be a little bit larger, I may also need to make the label larger in here for it to fit the new font. So as you can see, it is very simple to start changing some of the elements or some of the attributes for each of the elements in the user interface. I can also, of course, select the text field, and in here I can change the color, of course, the font, but this particular element has something that a label does not. It has a placeholder text. So for example, I can set a placeholder text that, as you can see, appears in there but kind of washed out, and that is because it's not the text set to the text field, but a text that is going to allow the user to know in a better way what he or she is to write in there. So in fact, as soon as the user taps on it, you can see that the cursor is not at the end of that text, and as soon as I start typing, that text goes away, and as soon as the text is back to nothing, that placeholder text appears one more time. So that is something that you can do to the placeholder text, in addition to what you of course can do to the label, which is pretty much the same thing. Now the button has of course some of its own attributes. For example, we can go a little bit to the button and we can change the background of the button. So as you can see, I am changing it to something different so I can actually see the entire button. But now I may need to change the tint as well. So now the button is a little bit more visible. I can of course change the text, for example, change button to say hello, and of course the changes are immediately applied in here as well. Okay, so now that we have this very simple UI all set to go, I will just run this one last time before going to the next lecture, because in the next lecture we are going to add some functionality to this application, because right now I can type something and I can press the button, but nothing really happens yet. We are doing that in the next lecture.